Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a world that evokes both immense hope, for progress, and also this profound fear of destruction. Nuclear energy.
Quite the paradox, isn't it?
It really is a source of power that could light up our cities or, well, devastate them. And navigating this incredibly complex landscape, right at its heart, is an organization you probably heard of, but maybe don't know the full scope of, the International Atomic Energy Agency.
Yeah, the IAEA. And what's fascinating, I think, is how it really embodies that paradox. It's got this dual mission, almost contradictory in a way.
How so?
Well, on one hand, it's there to actively promote the peaceful uses of nuclear energy, helping countries harness its benefits.
Right.
But on the other hand, its job is to inhibit its use for any military purpose, especially stopping the spread of nuclear weapons. It's a constant, really delicate equilibrium they're managing.
Absolutely. So our deep dive today is all about the IAEA. We're drawing from a pretty comprehensive set of sources, including a detailed Wikipedia entry, to give you a thorough look at its history, its structure, and its impact. And our mission for you, the listener, is to sort of unpack how this agency, which was actually born from the intense tensions of the Cold War, continues to balance these really diverse responsibilities, from ensuring safety to preventing proliferation, and, importantly, how it directly impacts you. Okay, let's explore this.
Sounds good.
So the story of the IAEA really kicks off with a pretty pivotal moment in the mid-20th century, specifically U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower's Atoms for Peace speech in 1953.
Right. That speech is widely seen as the catalyst, the thing that really got the ball rolling for the IAEA's formation.
But what was the context there?
Well, if you connect this to the bigger picture, the global backdrop at the time was one of, frankly, immense concern about nuclear weapons. And, of course, those rising tensions between the U.S. and the Soviet Union.
The Cold War in full swing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Initially, the U.S. had actually proposed an international body to take control of all fissile material, the stuff needed for bombs, kind of a nuclear bank. But the Soviets rejected that. They said, no way, unless disarmament comes first. So that led to this revised concept, the idea of a clearinghouse for nuclear transactions. It was a compromise, something both sides could potentially agree on.
A clearinghouse, okay. And that compromise eventually led to the agency's formal establishment in 1957.
That's right.
It was set up as an autonomous international organization, which means it's governed by its own founding treaty, the IAEA Statute. That actually came into force on July 29th, 1957.
And it's interesting, it's autonomy. It's not directly under the UN's control like some other agencies.
Yeah, but what's interesting is that while it is autonomous, it still reports to both the UN General Assembly and the Security Council, which really highlights its unique position in the whole international system.
Definitely. A key player.
So the IAEA's mission, as you mentioned, this balancing act, it's generally described in three core parts. You can think of it maybe like a three-legged stool.
Okay, yeah.
First, promoting the peaceful uses of nuclear energy. Second, implementing safeguards to make sure that nuclear energy isn't used for military purposes. And third, promoting high standards for nuclear safety.
It's quite a balancing act, like you said. That really outlines the mandate, but the real complexity, where the rubber meets the road, is how they manage that balance day to day.
Okay, so let's take that first leg of the stool then. Peaceful uses.
Right.
The IAEA statute itself, in Article 2, it clearly states the objectives are, and I'm quoting here, to accelerate and enlarge the contribution of atomic energy to peace, health, and prosperity throughout the world. So it's really not just about power plants, right? Even though those are important.
Absolutely not. The primary functions under this umbrella are incredibly broad. They encourage research and development. They help secure or provide materials, services, equipment, facilities for member states.
So practical help.
Very practical. And crucially, they foster the exchange of scientific and technical information and training. It's really about building global capacity in nuclear science and tech, not just being a watchdog.
And they have specific departments for this.
Yep. The Department of Nuclear Energy, Nuclear Sciences and Applications, and Technical Cooperation. Those are sort of the engines driving these peaceful use initiatives.
So what does that look like in practice? Any examples?
Oh, yeah. What's truly fascinating here is the sheer breadth of their work. It goes way beyond just electricity. For instance, the IAEA's 2022 annual report highlights some really interesting stuff.
Like what?
Well, there's the Rays of Hope initiative. That aims to reduce the big disparities in cancer treatment globally by increasing the availability of radiation medicine. And there's a particular focus on African nations, working with the World Health Organization.
Wow, okay. using nuclear tech for health.
Exactly. Then there's Zodiac, the Zoonotic Disease Integrated Action Initiative. That's all about international cooperation on preparing for and responding to zoonotic diseases, like COVID-19.
That seems incredibly relevant right now.
It really is. And they even have something called New Tech Plastics, which uses nuclear technology to help tackle plastic pollution.
How does that work?
Things like radiation techniques to recycle plastics or using isotopic tracers to track ocean plastic movement. It's pretty innovative stuff. And looking forward, they also have the Nuclear Harmonization and Standardization Initiative, or NHSI, that's focused on small modular reactors, SMRs. The goal is to harmonize regulatory standards to make it easier to deploy these smaller reactors, potentially helping with net zero goals.
That's amazing. It's such a broad impact. And of course, nuclear power is still a huge part of their work. You hear about countries considering it.
Oh, definitely. Roughly 60 countries right now are considering adding nuclear power to their energy plans or expanding existing programs, and the IAEA is right there, helping them build the capability to manage these really complex programs safely and securely.
Okay, so if the first mission is promotion, the second one is more about prevention, right? Let's transition to the safeguards mission.
Right, the other side of the coin.
This is also directly from Article 2 of the statute. It states the agency's role is in ensuring, so far as it is able, that assistance provided by it is not used in such a way as to further any military purpose.
Exactly. This is the non-proliferation part. The IAEA is authorized to set up and administer these safeguards to make sure nuclear materials and facilities aren't secretly diverted to make weapons.
And this became even more critical after the NPT.
Absolutely. A key development came after the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, the NPT, in 1968. From that point on, all the non-nuclear weapons states that signed the treaty are actually required to negotiate a safeguards agreement with the IAEA.
So it gives the IAEA real authority.
It does. It gives the agency a crucial, verifiable role in international security. It's not just about promises, it's about verification.
And who does this work? Is there a specific department?
Yep, the Department of Safeguards. They're the ones carrying out this mission. It involves a lot of technical measures, like accountants for nuclear material, cameras, seals, and, importantly, on-site inspections by IAEA inspectors to verify that what countries declare matches reality.
So boots on the ground, essentially, checking things out.
Pretty much. It's about transparency and making sure peaceful programs stay peaceful.
Okay, so we've covered promoting peaceful uses and preventing military misuse, but what about the inherent risks? Nuclear technology isn't risk-free. How does the agency tackle nuclear safety, especially after, major accidents?
Yeah, that's the third leg of the stool. And it's a mission that's been, tragically underscored by major events. It's forced significant shifts in focus over the years.
Like Chernobyl.
Definitely. The IAEA really redoubled its efforts in nuclear safety after the Chernobyl disaster in Ukraine back in 1986, and then again after the Fukushima disaster in Japan in 2011. After Fukushima, especially, there were strong proposals for things like peer-reviewed safety checks on reactors worldwide, organized by the IAEA, basically trying to prevent future tragedies by sharing knowledge and best practices.
So learning from disasters.
Exactly. And this safety mission is now classified as one of its absolute top 3 priorities. A significant chunk of its regular budget, around 8.9%, is allocated specifically to making plants secure from accidents.
And they're trying to be proactive, too.
Yes, for sure. For example, they established the International Seismic Safety Center back in 2008. The whole point is to enhance information sharing and establish safety standards specifically for the seismic safety of nuclear facilities, building plants that can withstand earthquakes.
So a truly global effort to learn from the past and prepare for the future.
That's the goal.
Okay, so we've talked about what the IAEA does, these 3 big missions, but what does this all mean in terms of how it actually operates day to day? How is it structured?
Right, the mechanics of it.
We mentioned its autonomy from the UN, but that it reports to the General Assembly and Security Council. It basically has 3 main bodies that govern its work, right?
That's right. You've got the Board of Governors, the General Conference, and the Secretariat.
Can you break this down quickly?
Sure. The Board of Governors is essentially the main policy-making body. It's responsible for most of the agency's policies, and it recommends the budget and activities to the General Conference. It has 32 member states on it.
How are they chosen?
Well, 22 are elected by the General Conference, and 10 are nominated by the outgoing board itself, often countries with the most advanced nuclear tech.
Okay. And the General Conference?
That includes all the member states, currently 180 of them. It meets once a year, approves the actions and budget recommended by the board, and it serves as this big forum for debate among all the members.
Like the parliament of the IAEA.
Kind of, yeah. And then you have the Secretariat. That's the professional staff, the employees, headed up by the Director General. They're the ones responsible for actually implementing the policies and overseeing the 6 big departments we've touched on: nuclear energy, safety and security, sciences, safeguards, technical cooperation, and management.
It sounds like a huge operation. Must require significant resources. How is it funded?
It's a mix. The IAEA budget has 2 main parts. There's a regular budget, which is funded by assessed contributions from member nations, basically, membership dues calculated based on things like GDP.
Okay.
And then there's the Technical Cooperation Fund, which relies on voluntary contributions from member states. This highlights the sort of global commitment, but also the reliance on goodwill for some of its activities.
Interesting. And looking at the leadership, the directors general, that must give some insight into its history, too.
Oh, definitely. Looking at its leadership provides a good sense of its evolution. You had W. Sterling Cole first, then Sigvard Eklund, served for a remarkable 2 decades, from 61 to 81. That was a really crucial period, solidifying the IAEA's role amid the Cold War, setting the stage for future proliferation challenges.
And then Hans Blix, who many remember from the Iraq inspections later.
Right, he was DG from 81 to 97. But then, a really pivotal moment in their public profile and impact came under Mohammed El-Baradei, who served from 1997 to 2009.
Ah, yes, El-Baradei. Because it was under him that the IAEA and he personally were jointly awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2005.
That's right, a huge recognition.
The citation for the prize was for their efforts to prevent nuclear energy from being used for military purposes and to ensure that nuclear energy for peaceful purposes is used in the safest possible way. Really sums up that dual mandate.
It does. And El-Baradei's acceptance speech was quite powerful, actually. He pointed out that just 1% of the money spent globally on developing new weapons would be enough to feed the entire world. Yeah. And he made this strong case that nuclear weapons should have, quote, no place in our collective conscience and no role in our security if we hope to avoid self-destruction. It really marked a shift, recognizing the IAEA as this critical global security actor, not just a technical agency.
And the current Director General, Rafael Grossi, he's been in the role since 2019. He seems to have been incredibly active, especially recently.
He really has. He's been right at the forefront of some incredibly challenging situations. During the Russian invasion of Ukraine, for instance, he personally made multiple visits to the country, trying to help prevent a nuclear accident, particularly around occupied power plants.
Like Zaporizhia.
Exactly. He's issued very strong warnings regarding the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, which is Europe's largest. And there was even that serious incident where an IAEA vehicle carrying inspectors was attacked by a drone during a rotation.
Good grief.
Yeah, so his dedication to nuclear safety and security right in the middle of an active conflict zone is really quite unprecedented and, frankly, vital.
So the headquarters are in Vienna, Austria, but they must have offices elsewhere, too.
Oh, yes, it's a global operation. Beyond Vienna, they have 2 regional safeguards offices, one in Toronto, Canada, and another in Tokyo, Japan. Plus liaison offices in New York City and Geneva, close to the UN hubs.
And research centers.
Right. Important laboratories and research centers in places like Cybersdorf, just outside Vienna, in Monaco for marine environment studies, and Trieste in Italy, which hosts the International Center for Theoretical Physics in partnership with UNESCO. These are critical for their scientific and technical work.
Got it. And membership, you mentioned 180 states. Is it hard to join?
Actually, the process is relatively simple for a state. What's quite noteworthy is that signing and ratifying the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, the NPT, is not a precondition for membership.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so even countries that haven't signed the NPT can join the IAEA, often to benefit from cooperation on peaceful nuclear applications, like medicine or agriculture. Most UN members are part of the IAEA, but not all.
Have countries ever left?
Yes. There have been some interesting cases. Nicaragua, Honduras, Cambodia all withdrew at various points and later rejoined. But the most prominent case is probably North Korea.
Right.
They were a member from 1974, but then withdrew in 1994 after the IAEA Board of Governors found them in non-compliance with their safeguards agreement. It really illustrates the complexities and sometimes the limits of the agency's mandate when dealing with determined states.
And you mentioned cooperation. Are there specific ways they foster that regionally?
Yes. Besides the global programs, the IAEA facilitates 4 regional cooperative agreements.
Yeah.
These are frameworks for countries within a region to work together. There's AFRA for Africa, Eurasia for Arab states in Asia, RCA for Asia and the Pacific, and RCL for Latin America and the Caribbean.
What do they do?
They're really crucial platforms for collaboration on everything from nuclear medicine and agricultural applications, like using radiation to create better crop varieties, to energy planning and managing radioactive waste. It helps build regional expertise and capacity tailored to specific needs.
Okay. Now, despite this vital role and, clearly many achievements like the Nobel Prize, the IAEA hasn't escaped criticism, has it?
No, definitely not. And that's probably not surprising given the immense weight of its responsibilities and the controversial nature of nuclear power itself.
What kind of criticisms have been leveled?
Well, the sources we looked at highlight several specific ones. For example, after Fukushima, a Russian nuclear accident specialist named Yuli Andreev publicly accused the IAEA. He said they were willfully ignoring lessons from the world's worst nuclear accident, Chernobyl, to protect the industry's expansion. Strong words.
Wow. So too close to the industry it regulates.
That's one line of critique. The journal Nature, a major scientific publication, also reported around that time that the IAEA's response to Fukushima was seen by some as sluggish and sometimes confusing. This led to calls for the agency to take a more proactive role in nuclear safety oversight.
Any other points?
Yeah, Najmuddin Mishkati, an expert from the University of Southern California, he's highlighted several what he sees as inherent problems. One is that the IAEA safety standards are mostly recommendations. They're not legally binding requirements on states.
Ah, okay.
Another is that dual mandate we keep talking about, being both a promoter of nuclear energy and its monitor or regulator. He argues that creates a potential conflict of interest.
Promoting versus policing.
Kind of. And finally, he suggests it's arguably overloaded by its responsibilities for verifying NPT compliance across so many countries and facilities.
Yeah.
Just stretched too thin.
So it seems like there's this recurring theme in these criticisms then. Scientists, journals like Nature, they've called for the IAEA to be, well, strengthened somehow.
Exactly. Made more able to deliver frank and independent assessments of nuclear crises as they happen. It really speaks to the incredible pressure and the difficulty of the job they have. And these criticisms, they point to the fundamental ongoing challenge of fulfilling that mission, especially as nuclear technology keeps evolving. SMRs, fusion research, and the geopolitical landscape keeps shifting.
Yeah.
It's just a testament to how incredibly complex balancing that dual role truly is.
So to sort of sum things up, the International Atomic Energy Agency plays this absolutely crucial but also incredibly complex role on the global stage. It's constantly performing this balancing act, promoting peaceful nuclear technology and all its vast applications, energy, medicine, environment, while also implementing these strict safeguards against military misuse. And on top of that, striving for higher safety standards, often in reaction to global challenges or disasters.
Yes, it's right at this unique intersection of cutting-edge science, really intricate diplomacy, and critical global security.
It really does. It's an organization managing immense power, both literal and metaphorical, with implications for every single one of us.
Absolutely. A huge, huge responsibility.
Which kind of leads us to a final thought for you, our listener, to maybe mull over. Considering the criticisms we've talked about and the ever-evolving global landscape of nuclear energy, from these new small modular reactors to rising geopolitical tensions, what fundamental shifts might the IAEA actually need to undertake to remain truly effective as the world's nuclear watchdog? How can it best fulfill that dual mandate and adapt to the really profound challenges of the 21st century?